there's this story that, you know, is being fed to the masses, which is the story that, uh, Bonfest basically perpetuates, which is, Bon is like
In
this sort of,
Scotland, you're talking about Bonfest, the yearly celebration in Scotland, right?
yeah, and they fucking hate me, and I fucking hate them. Fuck them.
Really?
Yeah, fuck them. No,
Yeah.
they've done nothing but sort of smear me, and I've put up with a lot of bullshit from people,
The
including
festival, or
including
just
the
people
Bond.
who go there?
Oh
Or?
no, a couple of the organisers behind that.
Wow.
No, I
Is that a, how about this? Is that a country thing? Because I feel like AC/DC is absolutely an Australian band, but it seems they're trying to reclaim Bon as a Scot. And
which is complete horseshit.
right,
Yeah,
well, it's
yeah.
a
Look,
small town, right?
look. They have to do what they have to do to, revive the economy of that little
Yeah,
town and whatever. Look, and I don't have any problem with people going and celebrating the life of Bon Scott, or having a good time. I think it's
yeah,
a great thing.
yeah.
But also, if you are genuinely interested in the human being that
Right.
was called Bon Scott, then be open to the idea that your hero got up to some things that that you might find unpalatable,
Yeah,
such as the fact that he was a heavy drug user,
yeah,
and those people don't want to sort of think about that or accept that, and they regard me as like this sort of devil-like figure, and so I've just copped the most insane shit on social media. Like, I've had Facebook pages set up with with really disgusting memes and you name it, like, and had death threats, had the fucking works. I've had mates go to the FBI about it, right?
wow.
I mean, I'm just a biographer, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. And all this because, I mean, the official story is that Bond died of a drug overdose. It's just a drug that's legal and socially acceptable. I mean, you're not proposing that he murdered people. You're proposing, everything that's backed up by evidence, that it was just a different drug, but it's not one that you can bust out at a bar and party with, right?
Well, okay, so his blood alcohol level was, half of Amy Winehouse, right?
Oh,
Half.
yeah.
I've had a situation when the first edition came out where people weren't even allowed to talk about the book or what was in the book, or post a cover of the book in various kind of Bon Scott groups on Facebook. On there's a bunch of idiots called the AC/DC family who like to think
Okay.
that they're the custodians of sort of the AC/DC brand around the world. They fucking hate me too. But it gets back to the title of the book, The Last Highway. Bond had sort of chosen a path of his own making, and he chose to do the drugs. He chose to take risks with his life, and he paid the ultimate price. And I don't ever say that I've got 100% proof of everything. I just sort of present things in such a way where I want the reader to kind of look at what we know and then make up your own mind when you have the available evidence, not when you have the anointed narrative given to you. I'm saying, okay, when I gather all the information together and I put it on the table, and this is what happened that night, and this is who Bond was with, and this is what he was doing, and his girlfriend was saying that he was going off the rails, and he was out of control on drugs and whatever. Okay, you put it all together, and then you figure out what is the most likely scenario here. Okay, and we had a police investigation that was sort of over, it's sort of just after it started. There was a very rudimentary kind of autopsy. No documents sort of exist as far as I know, or at least officially. From that time, I went to the hospital, I went to the police, did all that. And look at who the people that Bond was with that night. Alistair Kinnear was a drug dealer. He was known to be a heroin dealer in London at that time. Most of the people that Bond were around were all in the heroin scene. Well, they're known to be heroin users. And Pete and Paul from UFO gave me their stories, and those guys will happily admit that they were using heroin too. And they said, this is what Bond was doing at that time.
And it was common in artist circles. I mean, it became much more later on, but Eric Clapton had, just gotten off of heroin only a couple of years before. Like, it wasn't unheard of for artists at that level to fall into it.
Well, exactly. And I interviewed Mick Jones from Foreigner when I was in New York. I went to Mick's house and we spoke about his drug addiction. He's from Foreigner, for fuck's sake, right?
Right.
He was fucking strung out on drugs at that time. You don't think that Bon Scott from AC/DC, the heaviest fucking rock band in the world, might have been strung out on drugs too?
Yeah.
It's just bullshit.
I think, one of the best elements of Bond, The Last Highway, is that what you were just saying, is that when it comes to the end of the book, you state very clearly that you're not presenting 100% guaranteed truth. You are presenting your best understanding of what was most likely to be, which is far more likely and a better explanation than the official story or really anything else that's ever been put forward about it. But you don't claim to be in the room with them to know for sure. I mean, that's what research texts should be, because there's a lot of human history that isn't recorded properly. It's not recorded as in, this is not 100%, this is just our best guess, but it's most, more than likely. People are afraid to cage their language sometimes, and I appreciate that you do.
Well, exactly. And so, with other people who have died in mysterious circumstances, are we always going to accept what is on the death certificate?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Like for instance, why on the death certificate is there an address that doesn't exist? No, it's true. Look at Bond's death certificate. There's an address that does not exist.
Yeah.
There is so much to Bond's last 24 hours that it ended up taking me sort of 2 years to go through it all.
Yeah.
And piece it together like a jigsaw puzzle. The remaining sort of mystery, I guess, is who gave Bond the heroin that killed him.